Thank you so much for joining me today, John. People who haven't come across you and your work before, please could you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your background?
Okay, so I've always been interested in art from a very early age. Did well at school with it, yeah, I left school. Always still interested in art, but taking on various jobs. So I worked on building sites, I've worked in a warehouse, I've worked in a prison teaching young offenders, but always continually still being interested in art. And in any of my spare time, you know, I would just love to paint. And eventually when I met my wife, Melanie, I decided to take it seriously and try and make a career out of it. So I just literally, at the age of 26, threw myself into art and tried to make it as an artist. Yeah, I just worked hard on the techniques, painting still life, painting figurative, painting landscape, continually trying to work, building the techniques up and evolve. And it's, when I look back, it's really interesting how you learn in gears. So you learn something, you know, that's in the it's almost like having, I do some voluntary work with children as well. And a way of explaining it is the techniques are like having an empty tool bag and a technique or something that you learn is like putting the tool in the bag. So it's like that. When I look back, it was like, you know, you build up this bag of tools, of techniques, and it's a way of viewing things as well. You know, you learn to visualize things and learn to look in the right places.
That's a really good analogy with the toolbox. I mean, even seeing, like you touched on there, that your subjects have changed over your career. Has your style also changed, or do you think it's more evolved, as you said, learning from how to paint more figurative work?
Definitely evolves. You know, the processes that I paint and the techniques, they take a long time, especially on the upper layers. So I glaze the work. I almost want the painting to feel like it's alive, and oil enables me to do that. So on the upper layers, I do a glazing technique. So I'm layering very thin layers of paint, so that the light kind of goes through it, goes through the paint and reflects back out. And that enables me to get this sort of lifelike, you know, when you get close to the paintings, they feel alive. That's one of my goals, is to try and make the viewer feel like it's try and make the viewer feel like it's a living thing, you know. These are the techniques that I've tried to learn through the still life, especially, and the figurative, has almost been like a really good foundation for that. Taking it to the extremes, you know, painting porcelain, for example, and making it look like you could flick it and it would just sing, or you know, you could have a tureen, for example, and it's got a band of gold running through it, and making it look like the band of gold is seated within the glaze. So and the glazing enables you to do that. So all those skills that I've learned through that, I didn't realise at the time how good of sort of education that was to then transfer into my landscape work. And it was only when I started to do more and more landscape work that oh my God, yeah, this is great. I can use these techniques then. So it could be, for example, you know, you painted the sun on a painting, and then the leaves that fall over the sun. So like you could have a tree in front of the sun, and then just letting using the glazing technique to let the sun come through the leaf. So you're painting it quite thinly, so that the actual light reflected off the white of the sun, or whatever the lighter paint is reflecting through the leaf. A bit like a lampshade works, really.
That's really interesting. I know the creative process is very important to you. Could you tell us a little bit about that and why it is such a powerful process for you?
I mean, one of the main reasons I enjoyed to paint, you know, and took art as a career, was the fact that I'm able to express my emotions through it. So it's almost like acting on a stage. The canvas is the stage, and I put all my emotions into it. It's almost like, you know, when you listen to a piece of music and you get the goosebumps, that I can, from here, all that can come out, and it can, you know, I can express myself on the actual canvas or the panel. So that is like, I don't know, I almost get high on art when I'm painting, you know, and being able to oil paint enables you to, or enables me to, when I'm working on a painting, I feel like I'm in the painting, I'm in the landscape, so I can move it around. So the painting is still malleable. I can move it. I can alter horizons, or I can you know, add a tree, or you know, some kind of just adding a little bit of light behind a hedge can keep my imagination going. When I'm actually out in the countryside and I'm walking and I see something, you know, it could be just the brow of the hill. I wonder what's over that, and I'm trying to get that bit of mystery into the painting. So that's a big part of the creative process for me. You know, let alone the techniques.
So that's where your inspiration comes from, being outside, being in nature, walking through it, making it site specific, or is it a little bit of both? Having some, I don't know, a hedge, as you said, seeing that hedge, but then also letting your imagination run wild a bit.
Yeah, so occasionally that's site specific, but I would say the vast majority of my paintings are from my imagination. So I do study light. I had an exhibition in Richmond. It's really strange. I can't even remember. It's probably a couple of years ago, and I went through into Richmond Park. Never been there before, and I could tell. I could just look in the distance. I'm not seeing the map or anything. I knew there was water the other side of this piece of land, and yeah, just the way that the light was falling on it. So I'm using all that. It's almost like having a library in your mind of how things should be. And that enables me, just through studying light, to be able to put something into a painting and then know instantly that, well, okay, if I'm that there, could be a tree, could be whatever, that there is in that certain light. I know over here, then how the light needs to be, or the mist, you know. So it's about studying and building up this library in your mind, how things should look.
Wow.
So
you love this in your work. I have two pieces behind me here, both with mist in. Do you start with a fixed idea in your head of the piece, or do you let it take on a life of its own, as you said earlier? It really is a living, evolving thing. Is that in the painting as well?
Yeah, so majority of the time, yes, I've got some kind of an idea. It's almost kind of, I have different approaches. So sometimes, yeah, I'll know, yeah, this is going to be a river through here, or this is going to be a road, or whatever, or just an open field, whatever, looking into a valley. Sometimes it's taken from an abstract point of view. So it could be more about where do I want the light and where do I want the dark. So, for example, I wanted, from a distance, I wanted I'll just take one example of one painting that I did. I wanted, from a distance, this painting, it's a big painting. I wanted it to look like a block with a white line going through it. So very abstract. So you start thinking, okay, so in nature, what can I use to achieve that? So I used a canopy of trees. So imagine yourself being in a wood or a forest, and you've got a canopy of trees, and then the shadow from the trees, and then in the distance a clearing, so the light is coming through. So you've got, from a distance, when you look, I wanted the viewer to think it as an abstract when they walked into a gallery, for example, or, you know, it could be visitors into someone's home that has purchased a piece. But then when you get closer, you can see what it is. So from a distance, it's looking like an abstract. It's been approached in an abstract way in my mind. But then when the viewer gets closer, they can say, oh my God, yeah, you can see all the detail. I love putting the detail in. I love detail. Yeah, it's about, like I say, on those upper layers, putting all the glazing in. And I like to get the background. And once the background's on, it's like, right, this is where the real painting starts, and I'm really making the thing come to life, start to bring it to life. And I love it.
And would you say it's in those final stages that you really are channeling your emotions into it? I mean, you come across as a very emotive person, and I think you can feel that in your work. Would you say it is those final stages? And if so, how do you channel all your emotions into the canvas?
Yeah, it's not total. I mean, even on the background, you start to. It's almost like the bones of the painting. It's the main construction of the painting. But yeah, it's those little. I mean, you've got to be. Like I say, I love detail. I've got to be so accurate with it. It's the little details that lift the painting. Those little bits of light that you put around a figure, or like I say, the light coming from the background through these very fine layers of glaze. It's a combination of the both, really. But the upper layers, yeah, I really get carried away. I can just work for them. I've had people pull paintings away from you. You can't do it anymore. You're like, I just work on them and work on them.
Do you find it quite hard to stop painting sometimes? Is there always another little detail you could add, or something, another light trick to add in?
Yes. What I try and create with my work is there's a very fine line of detail. I don't want to put too much in, because I almost feel that the viewer would bounce off it. It doesn't need it. This is why I pare back the colour. I want the work to be accessible, so the viewer it's easy for them to enter the painting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I put too much detail into it, or too much colour, I do sometimes paint full colour paintings, but I want the viewer to enter my painting, to be able to enter the paintings easily. So that's a combination of colour, occasionally paring back on the detail, and creating an exit. So there should, from the way I see it, there should be an entrance to a painting and an exit through the painting.
You've said previously there is a story behind each of your pieces. What do you mean by this?
Well, they're very personal to me. I mean, I wouldn't start a painting if there was no emotion into it, or I get into, like I say, I get into this train of thought. I have to get emotional. I have to get personal about the painting. I have to. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it for me. That's the whole reason I became an artist. I'd do something else. If there wasn't that emotion in it, I'd do something else. That's the whole draw of it, of painting to me.
And do you have any paintings that are particularly special to you, be that on a personal or professional level?
Yeah, again, they're all really special. I mean, yeah, I've got one of my daughter. Just a simple drawing of my daughters when they were younger, and then one of Mel, and they're really special. But they're all pretty special, really.
And I know you just moved to a more rural location where your studio is now based as well. How has that affected you and your work? Do you think that has had an impact?
Oh, for definite, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I've always lived around the countryside. I've been really lucky. But yeah, before it was a trip out on my push bike or a walk, but now we're surrounded with it. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm really lucky. We've got a great scenery, and it's lovely. So yeah, totally immersed in it now. My whole life is just, when I step out of my studio and have a cup of tea, and I've got Betsy with me, my little dog, and we just go for a little wander around the garden. And I'm just really lucky, just so lucky to live here.
Constantly building that library, which you talked about earlier, that library of inspiration, picking up either a tree or a hedge or new surroundings.
Yeah, I mean the skies here. What I've noticed more is the moon. So I actually thought I was living in the twilight zone for a bit because it's like a full moon every night. But we're just noticing it more because we've not got, it's not so built up around us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And with your new collection coming out, you have a new collection of limited editions called Awaken. Have they been inspired by your new surroundings?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's. I'm really excited about the public seeing these. So yeah, definitely inspired from the new surroundings, and I've got ideas for a lot more sort of. So I've got, literally views from the garden, and so yeah, I want to work on that. But yeah, I'm really excited about these being released.
So
Yeah.
am I. I mean, I have two works behind me here, Blossoming Dreams and Our Time Together, and they are absolutely stunning. So I cannot wait for other people to see them too.
Thank you. Thanks, Mimi.